Is one allowed to have workers drill a hole in an etching of God's name? Now that sounds like a bizarre question, and probably we all know intuitively what the answer is. What was the question? Well, one of our rabbis in Chicago is redoing his sanctuary, and they are putting in a new mechitza, and in the glass part of the mechitza, it's etched in the entire text of Kabbalat Shabbat. Now they want to install handrails, and the workers would like to drill holes in various sections of the glass and would like to know if they have to avoid drilling the hole where there is God's name. Now, this is clearly prohibited, biblically in many cases. There's a biblical prohibition of destroying even one letter of God's name. Learn from the verse that says, you should wipe out the names of idolaters. And it says, Lo tasun kein la Hashem Elokeichem, do not do that way to God, which Chazal understand, maybe not shot of the pasuk, that means do not destroy God's name, even a letter of God's name. And this explicitly also includes an etching of God's name. Rambam says this explicitly, even God's name etched into something. Presumably, even if one did not erase the letter, but just destroyed the letter from looking as that letter, that would presumably also be included in the discussion of the poskim. It's fair to say that's included in the biblical violation. So drilling of a hole even in one letter could be a biblical violation, even if it didn't destroy the letter from the way it looked. It's still like you do it lower on a vav and it still looks like a vav. Or even if it was, let's say, in the airspace of the word, it was in the in the middle of Yud Kei Vav Kei in the airspace, technically that would not be, the second case certainly would not be any violation. The case of a letter without destroying it might still be a rabbinic violation. But even if it was no violation, I think it would be horrific to do that purely from a chinuch perspective. To see a hole drilled straight in that space where God's name is. Also, I should say, even if it's just a hey with a line or a yud with a line, that's not God's name at all. That just represents God's name, and there's no violation technically. But in a shul, to be doing something that shows a hole drilled right where God's name is, to me seems to be terrible messaging and should not be done regardless. Technically, again, you could ask, if you're having non-Jews do it, is there a problem telling a non-Jew to something that would be a violation for you to do, doing it indirectly? But again, here, in many cases, it might be biblical, and even if not, definitely something that one needs to really think what message they're sending when they do these types of things in the context of the shul.